Welcome to Ecstatic Yoga Mindful Communication. I am Grace. So happy you are here. You can go to ecstaticyoga.studio to find out more information on our yoga teacher trainings and retreats. Let's get started. Mindful communication. Mindful communication is important for creating peace with yourself, creating harmonious relationships with others, and empowering you to live the life of your dreams. Mindful communication includes speaking kindly and consciously to others as well as to yourself. Listening to others as well as listening to your own self, and also maintaining times of silence. You can shift from a more unconscious style of communication to a more mindful style of communication by using I statements, by taking responsibility for your feelings, listening attentively to others, using eye contact, avoiding interrupting when others are speaking, and not making assumptions, and also avoiding negative communications like criticizing, fault finding, or blaming. I'd like to go over a couple key reminders to keep in mind always. The first key reminder is to say and think only that which you want to create. Our second key reminder is to engage in communications for the purpose of bringing love and connection. Would also like to remind you of the golden rule that was taught by Jesus Christ. In everything, do unto others what you would have them do unto you. Or otherwise said, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. This has us avoid disempowering ideas of hurt for hurt, or two wrongs will make a right. We can give up that outdated, disempowering belief. When we do unto others as we would have others do unto us, we can use mindful communication to say to others that which we would also wish others to say to us, and to avoid saying things to others, things that we would wish others not say to us. I'd like to bring the THINK acronym. I have it on my wall. Gave it to my children several Christmases ago, and it is a powerful acronym to think about when using communication. Think. T stands for think before you speak. There's Xander again. Think before you speak. T stands for, is it true what you're about to say? H is it helpful what you're about to say? I, is it inspiring what you're wanting to say? N, is it necessary And lastly, for our K, is it kind? If you can, before you speak something, run it through the THINK acronym, and you may be saying far less, and that's okay too. A few basic tips to develop more mindful communication. Our first distinction is reaction versus response. Reaction in communication is unconscious, lacking thoughtfulness, gut reactions, defensive, and snap judgments. When we become reactive, we make quick, raw, unfiltered decisions because reactive energy is urgent, angry at times, acting on pure emotions, and not thinking things through. And this can cause more harm than good. When under pressure, reactive people can offend others, lose their temper, and disrespect others' time and energy. Response and responsiveness is conscious, thoughtful, well-planned, responsive, and thinks things through. Responsive people keep their cool even when things go wrong and become stressful. They have the ability to listen and hear others and formulate a careful, well thought out response. Responsive people have a filter that includes their value system, reasoning, and respect. Responsive behavior takes others' needs and feelings in mind and inspires others. When we practice responding rather than reacting, this alone allows us to be more mindful of our communication. When we can focus on communicating for increased love and connection with others and ourselves, we can allow this to motivate and direct how we respond to others and ourselves. A mindful communicator is a good listener. Let's talk about listening for a moment. Positive listening skills. Giving your alert attention, fully present, using eye contact, being undistracted, talking less, keeping an open mind, nodding approvingly, turning to face the person speaking. A good listener will pay attention to the person who is speaking and give them their full attention. Give them eye contact. Use body language to face them and keep their body and mind open to the other person. A good listener is considerate and will give their full attention to whomever is speaking. They listen to help the person feel good about themselves. Good listeners wait for a pause before they speak their turn and speak to understand and clarify what the other is sharing. Good listeners will pay attention to body language and nonverbal cues like tone of voice. And this is to understand and allow the person to be heard. What to avoid? Avoid interrupting, being distracted, looking away, inattentive, imposing your solutions. Interrupting is the opposite of listening. It sends a message to the person speaking that what they are saying and sharing is not as important. That what they have to say, the person interrupting is sending a message that what they have to say is more important than what others have to say. They are not showing respect or care for the other person, or caring for what the other person is wishing to share. They send a signal that their time is not worthwhile. I'd like to go over Patanjali and mindful communication. And we'll begin with the Yamas. And so we can map mindful communication onto the Yamas. The first Yama, Ahimsa, is non-violence. By following the morality of the yoga philosophy of Patanjali's Eightfold Path, we honor this first Yama in mindful communication by practicing peaceful, non-violent communication. And we intend and commit to practice peaceful, non-violent communication at all times and with all beings. Our second Yama is Satya, truthfulness. In all our communications, it is important to be truthful. That is an ethical and moral standard of right and mindful communication. However, we don't always need to speak every truth we believe, especially if we know it is not necessary or if it will cause harm. Satya encourages us to speak truthful words that benefit and benefit all involved and are spoken with great care not to cause harm. Even if something is true, Satya encourages us to contemplate if it will serve a good purpose in speaking and sharing it. There's a quote: "One should not tell the truth unkindly." Asteya, not stealing. But this is Yama 3. Patanjali's Yama is of non-stealing, and although it refers to not taking what is not yours materially or intellectual property or credit when credit is not due, this Yama can also include not stealing time by being late or over-talking. Over-talking and interrupting are ways to avoid reciprocal conversations. And it is a form of stealing time. In mindful communication, it is important to be aware of and conscious of our conversations and to create reciprocal balance in speaking and listening, sharing. Yama 4, Brahmacharya, restraint. Although Patanjali refers to sensual and sexual restraint, we can also refrain and restrain ourselves from criticism of others, judgments, and communicating hurtful messages to ourselves and to others. Restrain yourself from reacting impulsively, acting out your anger or hurt by saying things you may regret later and that can damage a good relationship. Be mindful in what you say and how it will affect others, even when you are highly triggered and upset. Especially when you're highly triggered and upset. This is the work of a mature and responsible yogi. The fifth yama, Apargala, non-possessiveness. When we apply this yama to communication, it can look like communicating to share rather than to look good, gain approval, or rewards. To share ideas with others, not as if we own those ideas, yet rather as possibilities from the cosmos, from thought spheres, or cultural ideas and conditioning. Also, hogging the conversation without sharing the time by creating reciprocity that allows others to speak as well as ourselves. Avoid being demanding of others in our communications. And I'd like to share one niyama, and that is surrendering to the divine, the fifth niyama. I love to include this niyama. It is complete surrender to the God of your understanding, where everything we do, including our communication, is for the sake of our divine and serving the divine. When we communicate as our service, mindful, thoughtful, patient, and present, in service of our divine. Speaking only when we are guided to speak, and communicating by sharing divine love through our eyes, our body language, and words of affirmation. Honoring silence and listening to others, and especially listening to our God, the God of our understanding, our divine. Communicating to serve divine will only. Practicing clean communication. Clean communication means taking responsibility for what you say and how it impacts others. It includes being honest rather than lying or twisting things, and complete in your communications rather than leaving pertinent information out. Being compassionate and supportive with the intention of creating connection rather than being defensive and creating distance. Practicing clean communication will always help. It will always resolve rather than reject. There are a few avoids in practicing clean communication. Avoid judgments and snarky comments. No one likes to be judged. No one likes to be made wrong. It hurts the self-esteem and it hurts the relationship. Avoid demeaning labels like stupid or jerk or sexist or lazy, mean. Derogatory labels are personal and they attack the person rather than the behavior. Derogatory labels make someone feel as if they are bad. And worse, a label makes you feel like you are always bad. That is just who you are. Labels will destroy trust and create distance rather than closeness, love, and connection. Please avoid labels in all communication, unless, of course, you want to share a loving and kind label. Number 3, avoid blame. Accusations, blame, and shame are always negative and make people feel attacked. Sometimes when we are overly defensive, we can blame and distance the person rather than create that connection and love. This is when you avoid you statements, when you are upset, and shift to I statements, taking responsibility for how you feel. This way, you are not blaming the other person. You are simply taking responsibility for how it has impacted and affected you. Also, it is not helpful to blame as generalizations. For example, you are always late, or you never help me when I need it. If we are very honest with ourselves, generalizations are never true and always hurtful. Changing you statements to I statements. I'd like to give you a few examples. You statement. You are always late. An I statement. When you are late, it makes me feel sad because we missed time together. You statement. You never help me when I need it. I statement. I get overwhelmed when I need to do all the work alone. Number 4, let go of past hurts. Past is gone, and when you bring it up in communication to make someone feel bad, it never serves. It only separates and creates more hurt and more distance. If there are things that are unresolved from the past, find empowered ways by using I statements and sharing how you feel rather than drudging up things that happened long ago or even days ago to defend yourself or make the other wrong. Often drudging up the past is done to make a good case that you are right and the other is wrong. This is avoiding being responsible for your part and shuts off from the love and connection you ultimately desire. Use your communication to create love and connection, moving forward from the present moment. 5, avoid negative comparisons. A negative comparison always feels like an attack and never resolves anything. It is also never fair because comparison is subjective. Negative comparison always feels like a put down and makes the receiver feel bad. 6. Avoid threats. Threats send a message and makes the other feel bad and as if they need to be punished. If you don't take me to the play, I'll find another handsome man that will take me. If you don't say what I say will not, if you don't say what I want you to say, I will not talk to you. It's a punishment. And I won't be here anymore, etc., etc. Threats are always disempowering and intentionally hurtful. Be aware of what you say. Even subtle threats can be destructive, and especially destructive to the relationship. Threats are childish, immature, they dwell in victim consciousness. Let's avoid them at all costs. I'd like to mention some includes for clean communication. Those were avoids. Now we're going to mention some includes. 7. Use feeling words to connect. Be clear about how you feel and take responsibility for your own feelings. I feel a desire to be closer. I feel a need to have more communication. I feel frustrated when there is no communication. I feel unimportant when you're late. When you use the I statements and your feelings, you gain a chance to connect deeper rather than attack and push away those you love and care about. 8. Receptive body language. Include this in your communications. An open and receptive body communicates connection and safety. Ways to practice open and receptive body language is to maintain eye contact, keep your arms uncrossed, your face relaxed and with maybe a gentle smile, nod to show you're hearing what the other person is saying, lean gently into the person who is speaking. And another include is to use clear messages. Straight, powerful, and clear communication. It is done without passive-aggressive digs, without leaving important or pertinent information out, and without judgment or suppressed negative emotions. It is honest and complete, leaving both parties feeling understood and honored. Be honest, open, vulnerable, and speak with the intention to bring love and connection to the relationship. And so we're going to talk now about compassionate or nonviolent communication. When we include compassionate communication, empathy as our intention, In all our communications, we avoid blaming and criticizing. We are also able to hear a criticism from another without lashing back in defensiveness. We get our needs met far better by communicating compassionately, as well as help others to get their needs met. Compassionate communication brings love and harmony to relationships for an overall happier and more peaceful life. Compassionate communication invites us to pause before we speak. Avoid quick reactive comments. It invites us to look deeper into what is the underlying cause of our upsets. By pausing before we speak, we can approach a situation with compassion and understanding rather than anger and reaction. When we bring our empathy and attention to others, they in turn become more open to give their empathy and attention to us and hear what we have to say and help fulfill our needs. Psychologist Marshall B. Rosenberg is the author of Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. Rosenberg is credited for promoting the compassionate communication style we will explore. His theory is that communication is an effort to get core human needs met. When we focus on helping one another get needs met through compassion, we act and communicate with loving kindness and are able to give and receive more openly and generously, meeting our needs and others' needs with far greater ease. The 4 components to Rosenberg's model invites us to respond with compassion rather than blame. Number 1, practice observing actions. Witnessing without judgment rather than judging others' actions provides space to contemplate, avoid quick, harsh, reactive communications. It distances us from the triggers and allows us to back off and breathe, giving opportunity for healthier behavior and responding healthier. Number 2, identify your feelings. Give yourself time to become aware of all that you are feeling. Have empathy for yourself. Don't blame yourself for what you're feeling. Don't blame the other. Simply feel fully what is arising within you, and rather than giving a general good or bad, give your feelings something a little more specific. I'm feeling unsettled, confused, left out, unsafe, unimportant, not good enough, afraid. Number 3, explore how needs inform your feelings. When you experience an intense emotion arise, take time to link it to a need usually an unmet need, a need within you, and a need within the other. For example, your partner or close friend participates in an activity or an outing or an event and doesn't invite you. You feel hurt and possibly angry, and you begin to explore what are some of the needs that lay below the hurt. You sense into your need to be included, not left out, to be safe in the relationship, to be important, to share time and life with the other. Then you contemplate what your partner or friend may be feeling. Maybe they are struggling to balance their life, or to please other people, or feeling overwhelmed. Then contemplate or ask your partner what their needs are. They may need to feel a sense of freedom, or to spend time with a variety of people and friends, to not feel tied down, to be spontaneous. Take time to see your partner and your friend as a human being, with feelings, with needs, rather than trying to simply upset you or leave you out. Maybe the situation calls for more understanding rather than blame. This can evolve you beyond just yourself, avoiding hurtful communication and choosing a more compassionate response. Number 4, practice making specific positive requests. You now have the opportunity to move from a disempowered way of being, blame and negativity, to an empowered way of being, requesting what you want and need. Honesty and kindness. Kindly make a request for what you want them to do to meet your needs. Be specific. Focus on what you want to create in the relationship, what you want to happen, and invite the other to assist you in creating this. Mindful communication with yourself. Most important of all communications is to communicate with our own self mindfully, compassionately, and kindly. It begins by being aware of that voice in your head, witnessing the conversations we have with ourselves. We are often so used to that inner critic that we don't even realize the voice is there. It becomes unconscious. He is cheating on me. I made a mistake again. I need to lose 10 pounds before anyone will love me. Ask yourself, when you hear that inner critic, if you would ever say that to a friend. You probably wouldn't say some of the things you tell yourself to even an enemy. Give yourself a reality check. And rather than blindly believing your inner critic day after day, question the thoughts it shovels out to you. How many times has that voice told you, oh, he's with someone else, just to discover he was working late or at the store? Your voice lied. How many times has that voice in your head told you that you couldn't do something, and you did it. That voice lied. How many people love you just the way you are? And do you think they would love you any less or even any more just because of a few pounds? The inner critic is a liar. Rarely does it ever tell you the truth. If a friend of yours told you multiple lies, would you continue to believe what they said? Would you trust them? Your inner critic has been lying to you all your life. Don't believe any negative, harsh thought in your head that makes you feel bad. Only believe the thoughts that expand love and connection to your own sacred self and the world around you. Be the softest place to land, the kindest voice. Make a commitment to yourself to speak mindfully and compassionately to your own sacred and precious self. There's a story I'd like to share, and it's of it's an indigenous grandmother, and she's speaking with her granddaughter. And she tells her, there are 2 wolves inside of every person. The wolf of love and kindness, and the wolf of hate and criticism. And they're always at war inside of every person. And the granddaughter asks the grandmother, which wolf wins? And the grandmother said, the one you feed. Feed the voice of love rather than the voice of fear and hate and cruelty. Feed the voice of kindness within you. That voice is there. Starve the voice of unkindness. I want to remind you of the 2 mindful communication reminders. Say and think only that which you wish to create. Our words are powerful. If you want to have that job, speak as if you have it. Don't even say, I don't have the job, I won't get the job. Don't even speak that. Only say that which you wish to create. I have the job of my dreams. May not be that one, but I have the job of my ultimate dreams. Say only that which you wish to create. And engage in communication for the purpose of love and connection. Only. I invite you now to take some time to journal. And I invite you to journal a loving message to yourself. Compassionate, mindful communication to your own self. A message of love, a love letter to yourself. Full of gratitude, full of love for how wonderful you are. Praise and acknowledge yourself for all your good qualities. and for how hard you try, and for how brave you are for simply being here, living this human life. Thank you for being present to this mindful communication lesson today. I am Grace. You can go to ecstaticyoga.studio or oneworldstudio.com for more information on our yoga teacher trainings and retreats. I wish you a most beautiful and most blessed day. Namaste.